It's Dia de la Rioja in Spain, the 9th day of the 2014 hurricane season in the month of June, which is being observed here in Jamaica as Disaster Risk Reduction Month, Rides Month, National Road Safety Awareness Month, and National Exporters Month. We're also observing Heroes Day. Well, it's Heroes Day in Uganda, and Murcia Autonomy Day in Spain. Today is also World Accreditation Day, and we're on the heels of World Oceans Day, which was observed yesterday. It is Monday, the 9th of June, 2014, and we greet you well, wherever in the world you are listening to us right now. We remain eternally grateful for the gift of life and the privilege to serve you on yet another edition of your program, Both Sides of the Story. We don't take your listenership for granted because we know you have choices, and that's why we never ever forget to remember to say thanks for choosing to listen to Both Sides of the Story, Monday to Friday, 2:30 to 5, right here on Power 106 FM. The mission continues to educate, empower, enlighten, and encourage entrepreneurship. Welcome. As you've heard, this afternoon we're coming to you live from Charela Inn here along the Norman Manley Boulevard in Negril, which is shared by Westmoreland and Hanover in Jamaica. Wherever in the world you are tuned in to us right now. We've also been teasing the discussions coming up, and simply put, we're discussing the future of the world-famous 7-mile strip of white sand beach here in Negril. That's essentially our area of focus. But to put it all in context for us, we're going to ask Ray Arthurs, who is very well known in these parts. He's a businessman, hotelier, barnya, as they say, right here in Negril. How are you, sir?
Very well, thank you.
Good, thank you so much for joining us. Good to see you, it's been a while. So, help our listeners first of all to understand, what is all this controversy about? We've seen this story on the news, we've read it in the papers, we've heard it on the radio as well. And so for those who are not quite sure what this is all about, could you just put it all in context for us?
Well, as you have mentioned before, a ban, and I think that is very important. Because over the years, you have to know what was on in history, and history of a way of going inside. So unless you know what happened before, it will be very difficult for you to come in the middle and dictate and say what's going to happen. It's what is observation over the years going to tell you what happened. And fortunately enough for me, both myself, my father, and my grandfather, who I know very well, those days there wasn't radio and TV, so what they do is sit down and tell the stories about what happened. Literally happened before your eyes. And the beach that we have in Negril here is renowned all over the world as one of the finest. And we take great pleasure in having this beach right in our backyard. It would not about given to us. And so we want to go. Over the years, the problem that we have here is erosion. The sea has taken constantly from the beach and coming in and in. And it reached a point, at first it wasn't a problem because it wasn't built up. Now that the impact of building and occupation of people out there, then it becomes a hazard to those who are out there. What we have now is that it reaches the critical point where in some parts the beach is getting very small. And it has happened over many years, maybe hundreds of years. It's erosion. And from time to time, sometimes it slows down, sometimes it gathers momentum. And we are fearful now that unless something is done, and something that is corrected, we won't have this 7-mile beach for long as we pleasure. The tourists that come here and the people who live here, live in the inland, come to the beach, it's one of the joy that come down to the sea. The shoreline is shallow, you come all the way out. And it's such a joy and a pleasure to be able to have this in our possession, given to us by the Almighty. And I think what is given to us needs to be carefully protected. And we are fearful that sometimes the things that are suggested by those who I convinced doesn't know a lot about it, you can't read this thing in a book. It has to be something you have to study over the years and observe. This cannot be read in a book. This experience that you come by. You see what happened. And in our former days, we used to have old men who in the evening, we used to go up there, and the fishermen used to go up there, I used to be there, see them ask these old men to tell us about the condition of the weather, what's going to happen tomorrow. And these men could read the signs as if it was a book. They would tell you when a rough sea is coming and how big it used to be, it would be. And it was like education. Once the cloud was coming over in the evening, in what we call the north season, that commences about October to March. That was when the rough sea comes in. And in the evening we would go there and sit, and then they would tell us the history, and what's going to happen tomorrow. The sea is going to come in, it's going to be a big one, or it's not going to be so big. So these people studied. Those people were there, they studied. It happened to people who are here. And
a lot of that knowledge and experience would have been passed on.
Passed on. This is how it was done, generation for generation. And they could tell when she's going to rough tomorrow.
So you know the area. So any effort at addressing any concern in the area would perhaps come to naught without the involvement of the people in the area.
It boggles my mind to think why they can't be having half a dozen people who is 70 years and over. Have they ever sit down and talk to these people? That boggles my mind. Why they haven't talked to older people? What has happened over a period of time? How do you see things? And then from that they can gather some of their past experience and come to a conclusion. But they, in their scientific knowledge, going to tell us what they're going to do. Instead of listening, one of the greatest quality of life is to sit and listen.
We say on this program, in fact, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, borrowing with the lines of Epictetus. 2 ears and 1 mouth. So we should listen twice as much as we speak. Stick a pin there, as we say in Jamaican parlance. Let's take the commercials and come back, and then we hear what is being proposed by those who are more familiar with the area to deal with the beach erosion, and what is being put forward with the authorities who perhaps haven't a clue as to the mechanics, for want of a better word, of the area. We'll be back in just a moment. We're speaking with hotelier, businessman, Barnia, Ray Arthurs, as we come to you live from Charela Inn this afternoon. We're discussing the future of Negril's 7-mile strip of white sand beach. Back in a moment. Streaming live on the Gleaners website, go-jamaica.com. We have the pleasure of the company of a number of the hoteliers here in Negril, and those who have been residents of this area from birth. And we're discussing the future of that world-famous 7-mile strip of white sand beach. Yes, beach erosion has been taking place for some time now, but do you just fix it with any old solution, as opposed to a solution that would be in the interest of all concerned, not least of all the beach itself? So we have at our table Ray Arthurs. He's a hotelier of high repute, and one who was born right here in Negril. Beside him we have Nehru Caolsingh, who is representing Crystal Waters on Norman Manley Boulevard, and he's another one who was born right here in Negril. Lee Issa is at our table as well. He chairs Couples Resort, the world-famous Couples Resort. And of course, we have Mrs. Grizzle Roumel and the representative Mary Veira, that's right, who will be telling us about who will be making a point about this designated marine park. Has been so designated from 1998, but no movement at all, no action. No management. There you go. We'll come back to that in a moment. But I wanted you to get from you, Ray Arthurs, what is the proposal that you, the conscious hoteliers, business people, and the people of Negril are proposing as a solution to the beach erosion? What are you proposing?
Well, I believe we have a consensus that one of the first things that need to be done is to bring the sand back to nourish the beach. This is not a full solution, but at least it will buy some time until we have the right application that needed to be done. One of the things that we find that if you have buildings along the beach that is solid, it creates erosion. It speeds up the process of erosion. It's a fact, we've seen it. We have those on the beach that you can look at it and you can see. You don't have to go anywhere and read about it, it is there. The sea will resist anything that is solid that it comes in and fight against. It will cause erosion. The replacement of the sand, until I think we have a lot of studies by Smith Warner that has been done to help to show us what the solution is, but I think there's some diversion from this that we are unhappy about. Right? And the present one that is presented is not acceptable to the people here, or the majority of people here in Negril.
What is being presented?
Well, the presentation that is given from the latest, I think, I'm not quite sure the name of the people who implemented it, but it's coming through NEPA.
That's the National Environment and Planning Agency,
right.
Yes?
What are being presented is not satisfactory to the people in the whole. It's not that we don't want something, but we are unsure of what they are presenting to us. We are a little bit it's untried, and we are not very happy with it.
Well, let me bring in Nehru Caolsingh here of Crystal Waters. Do you have an understanding of what is being proposed, and what do you think is the problem with that which is being proposed?
Well, presentation was made to us, and the solution...
Who made that presentation? NEPA? Or the Works Agency? CL Environmental. Okay.
Yes, I think they are probably the contractors that they're proposing to use.
Okay. All right, let me ask. Mary, you seem to have a little more here, just to give us an idea. Please. Good afternoon. Go ahead, please.
Hi. The presentation that Nehru was referring to was made by CL Environmental. They are the company that was asked to do the EIA study for
That's the Environmental Impact Assessment
study for the breakwaters, and they were requested to do that by Theyeach Solutions, that is the engineering firm that the NWA contracted to design and implement the breakwater project here in Negril. NEPA gave NWA because NWA is responsible for our sea fences here in Jamaica.
Okay, thank you for that. So, what's your understanding of this breakwater solution, Mr. Issa?
Well, personally, I think that it is not the remedy. I believe, along with the other stakeholders, that these hard structures, when they are put in place, if it doesn't have the expected results, you can't change that. It becomes irreversible. So we feel that
But before you go on to how you feel about this, when we speak of a breakwater, for those listening to us who are unfamiliar, what's a breakwater?
well, it's boulders that are put into the into the sea to act as a breakwater to prevent the waves from taking away the beach. And you can have submerged breakwaters where you don't see them, and you can have breakwaters that are not submerged. We feel that the beach nourishment approach, which is a soft structure, is a more guaranteed solution in the short term while we fix the environmental ills of the past. And one of the things that I'm very concerned about with these breakwaters, and it was brought out in the EIA study, was the fact that the water quality will deteriorate at 22% in the bay, in Long Bay. And that, to me, is unacceptable. Because it is going to affect the flow, the natural flow of the tide, and with that you'll have a deterioration of the water quality. And that is what you don't want to have happen in a resort environment where people come here because of its natural beauty and the natural assets of this fantastic 7-mile beach.
Got you. Hear you loud and clear. So those persons who are planning the development, who are planning to put in the breakwaters, the authorities, have they had meetings with the hoteliers? Have they had interactions with the people in general? Mr. Caolsingh?
Yeah, I think one meeting that I know of has been held, which I attended.
One meeting?
Yes.
And
Well, they may have had more than one meeting, but
Well, that's one you're familiar with.
One meeting that was
okay, Ray Arthurs?
I know about one that I attended, and some of the hoteliers who are stakeholders and have this interest. If they're not involved, then who bring it to this point? I would have thought that instead of discussing this matter after I'd seen to the
I think I'm understanding it. So they have come to say this is what we're going to do.
This is precisely what we do not like.
As opposed to engaging
Thank you very much.
the stakeholders first.
Exactly.
And then arriving at a position.
Exactly so. Exactly so. Exactly so.
Right, I think, yes, you wanted to come back in here, Ben. Go ahead.
Yes, the PIOJ,
That's the Planning Institute of
Planning
Jamaica.
Institute of Jamaica, who are responsible for obtaining the grant from the Adaptation Fund, is adamant that they had proper consultation in Negril and that we were all advised and told about these breakwater plans from 2012. However, it's very obvious that so many people protesting who they said they met with, having a meeting does not constitute a proper consultation. Having a meeting and discussing things ad hoc is totally different from a consultation. A consultation requires that you are involved in the formative decision making, that you are given adequate information and time with which to go over that information to then contribute and make a final decision. That has not been done. And they're adamant that it was, and nobody here knew about it until February when the resort board had a meeting and the EIA consultant came down and did a presentation. And so it's not that anybody's at war with the PIOJ or with NEPA, but we're saying, guess what? This is not what we wanted. It's funny because when the Beach Restoration Committee first was established in 2005, they were asked to get tenders for beach restoration work to be done here in Negril. And they turned down Theyeach Solutions' proposal for that because it was all based on hard structures. And that was the reason why they went with Smith Warner International. And the Smith Warner findings showed that the first option for beach restoration in Negril should be beach nourishment. So I don't know on what basis PIOJ, NEPA, NWA, whichever one it is, made the decision to go with breakwaters, but nobody here is happy about it.
Okay, that's quite clear. So Mr. Caolsingh, we're on the heels of World Oceans Day, which was yesterday. Make the connection for us and just help us to understand when we speak of beach nourishment. What are we talking about?
Okay, well, most beaches suffer some form of erosion, and naturally, as time goes by, you have to find some solution to get the beach back in place, because this is really our marketing tool. We're marketing, the swimming, the beauty, and our beaches. And over a period of time, yes, even before Negril was developed, before any road was put in, there was beach erosion. The thing is this, that when you reach a point that that situation has to be corrected, because it's not corrected naturally by natural wave action, then we have to look at the solution that
is as close to natural as possible.
And will also enable us to continue to operate aesthetically and safely.
Can you hold it right there? We're way past the 4 o'clock break. Sorry about that. Let's just take this break and come back in a moment. If you're just tuning in, this is Both Sides of the Story on Power 106 FM. I'm Dervan Malcolm, and we're live at Charela in Norman Manley Boulevard in Negril. We're discussing the future of the 7 mile strip of white sand beach right here. On the one hand, the authorities seem more inclined to go with breakwaters in order to stop the erosion. The stakeholders here in Negril are saying no, that could be quite dangerous and harmful, and the quality of the water is going to be impacted by these breakwaters. They are more in favor of beach nourishment, which Mr. Caolsingh was about to get into. Let's take the break and come back in just a moment. Que hora es en español? Son las 4:08. Quelle heure est-il en français? Il est 4:08. 现在几点了？4点8分. What time is it in English? 8 minutes past 4 o'clock. Have you had a checkup lately? If not, now is a good time. Now, let's not wait until we get sick to get a checkup. How about that? We're checking in with the state of the 7 mile strip of white sand beach, the world famous 7 mile strip of white sand beach here in Negril. We're discussing the future of the 7 mile strip. We're broadcasting from Charela Inn, which is on Norman Manley Boulevard here in Negril, of course, which is shared by Westmoreland and Hanover. And we have with us Ray Arthurs Nehru Caolsingh, Lee Issa, Mary Veira, and Sophie Grizzle Roumel from right here at Charela Inn. Before the break, or at the break, Nehru Caolsingh was explaining this business of beach nourishment, because listeners, at issue here is whether the solution to the beach erosion here in Negril should be the establishment of breakwaters as it's being proposed by the authorities, or should it be beach nourishment as is being proposed by the stakeholders on the ground right here in Negril, and apparently as has been supported by at least one study that was mentioned earlier on, right? The Smith-Warner study. So please continue, Mr. Caolsingh, just to get our listeners to understand what would be involved in beach nourishment.
Okay, the thing is that the situation with the beach in Negril, we are at a critical position and something has to be done. We cannot sit indefinitely and continue, arguing or trying to figure out exactly what we're going to do, because we have very little time in which to do what is necessary. We have lost a lot of beach over the years, and I just mentioned that even prior to the development of Negril, when Negril was in its natural form, no infrastructure put in, just where the morass met the ocean and just the fishermen living here, there was always lots of sand as a result of bad weather that would come in from time to time. And we've been fortunate, through the years, we have lived with that, and we're now reaching a point. The buildings haven't been are fixed at a certain distance from the ocean, and the ocean is now getting in closer and closer to the buildings. So it does mean that we have to do something that we can continue comfortably and profitably and to the benefit of the country in our industry. So if we're looking here at what the present proposal is that the installation of these artificial breakwaters really seems to be covering only half of the Long Bay area in Negril, or maybe less than half. More than half of the Long Bay area south will be still left open to heavy seas coming in, because there is no reef that's on one good section of that south section of Negril to stop any of the rough seas coming in. It comes straight in. So we're still going to be exposed there. So even the proposed breakwater may not really help the entire Negril.
So it's one that they're proposing to put in place, or more than two?
There are two, one on either side of the current.
But you're saying that would
Right.
still be insufficient?
Yes, because half of Negril will still be left exposed, because the reef that there is in Negril at the moment, the two reefs that are there, are only covering the north side of the Long Bay area, whereas the south side of the Long Bay area in Negril is wide open ocean. For those of us who, like Ray, was born here, and for me, who has been associated with Negril for over 60 years, even before any development came here, the worst and the most horrible seas you can get in the Negril area is when a hurricane or storm conditions passes on the south side of the island during the hurricane season. That literally in one shot will rip up the beach and maybe put the equivalent of 5 years of beach erosion versus normal beach erosion without the hurricanes that running on the south. You have one on the north, it will be less than the one that is attacking you from the south side, right? This breakwater, even if it were to be put in on work, does not even take into consideration protection of the southern half of Negril Beach, or nearly 3 miles of Negril Beach. So out of the 5 miles of the beach, it seems that only approximately 2 miles, or a little more than 2 miles, will be offered any protection. That's one issue there. Secondly, the morass, which was drained several years ago when the development of Negril took place, turned out to be a mistake, but not intentionally, because at that time there was not enough known about the relationship of the morass as it related to the beach. And this was done, and we found out as a mistake. But what is also extremely amazing, that very recently here, in the proposal for the breakwaters, when we brought up this point, that the morass cannot be drained, one of the persons that
one of the consultants?
Well, I don't know exactly who the person is, but someone associated with the program was quoted in the press saying that any relationship between the morass and the beach is far-fetched. And this just blows our mind, right?
Oh dear.
So, in addition to this, what is also involved, why I mentioned this about the morass, is that if this breakwater project is to go ahead, look at what is going to happen in Negril. The face of the coastline of Negril
is going to be changed.
It's going to be changed.
Forever changed, dramatically.
But not only that, it's going to be dumped up as if we're creating a port, as we're doing Freeport in Montego Bay. And Negril cannot take on the appearance of a commercial port. We're a tourist resort. What we're selling is the natural beauty of the area. That's all God gave us.
So whatever action is taken must be action that preserves.
Exactly, because this is what we are selling. This is what the people come here to see. If they want to see a port, then they can go to the port of Manley and take a look at where the ship docks there, if that is what they want to see.
Hold it right there. We're understanding the issues even clearer here at Charela Inn on Norman Manley Boulevard in Negril. We're discussing the future of the 7-mile strip of white sand beach And when we come back from this break, we're also going to, well, we can tell you now, there's a public meeting tomorrow afternoon at 3 at the Negril Community Center. Tomorrow afternoon at 3 at the Negril Community Center, that way, right? And the public is invited, so you can hear more, discuss more, and get a better understanding, so you can take a stand for your community right here in Negril. We'll be back in just a moment. Es en espagnol son las 4:21. Quelle heure est-il en français? Les 4:21. What time is it in English? 21 minutes past 4 o'clock. Have you done your homework yet? If not, now is a good time. Good afternoon to all the schoolers listening to us, all the students from the early childhood level to the secondary level. Trust you had a productive day at school today. Hope you also managed to get in some physical activity, just as important as mental activity. As we always say, young people, socialization makes you educable. Education makes you trainable. Training makes you employable. And the right attitude makes you successful. Homework time, young people. In the meantime, we're with a group of concerned citizens and business persons who have done their homework with respect to solutions to beach erosion here in Negril. We're discussing the world-famous 7-mile stretch of white sand beach here in Negril. Our base for this afternoon is Charela Inn on Norman Manley Boulevard. And we have with us Ray Arthurs Nehru Caolsingh, Lee Issa, Mary Veira, and Sophie Grizzle Roumel of Charela Inn. You were telling us, well, I saw the sign earlier on, that there is, of course, a big meeting on tomorrow at the Negril Community Center.
Yes, they're starting at 3 o'clock. We have some students who are going to be doing some ecological skits to explain not just about the breakwaters, but about all the good things we can do to save our oceans and our country. We will also have a presentation with lots of photos, because we believe that a photo is the same as telling 1,000 words. So there'll be a presentation of all the steps of what's going to take place to produce this breakwater, so people are aware of what is going to be happening, because I believe that the local people in Negril need to understand what is going to happen to their community. The people in Redground need to know that, you know, these great big tour buses are going to have to be coming through there to access the West End, and they need to start telling their children to be careful while they walk on the road, because we don't want any accidents to happen. So these are all the issues we will be presenting to them, and then we'll be able to answer as best we can whatever questions they might have to further educate them about what is going to be happening.
There's been a lot of press, Lee Issa, on this matter, television, newspaper, radio, etc. Do you get a sense that you're picking up any traction? Have you been contacted by anyone in authority to seek further dialogue, etc.?
Well, I think the Minister of Tourism is trying to convene a meeting with the stakeholders, along with the PIOJ present, and we are patiently awaiting his response.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we have sort of created a bit of a stir, and I think that the government is starting to listen to reason and to try and see how we can best do what is the best thing, the right thing for the world. Mm-hmm. One of the things I'd like to say, though, going on what Neville was saying, that you know it's only going to protect them about 2 miles of the
breakwaters
of the 7-mile beach. We'll call it 5 miles.
5 miles.
2 miles in Boulevard. The thing is, with the beach nourishment program, everybody is going to end up with at least 100 feet of beach. And those pockets which seem to get the most hit whenever you have a storm, those will be addressed. Now, you don't know with the breakwaters what's going to happen with the movement of the water, the sand. There's no guarantee, and it's irreversible. Those structures are irreversible. But the main thing is, we're not saying that a beach nourishment program is going to solve the erosion problem. What we are saying is it will give us time like what Ray was saying, will give us time to fix the environmental ills of the past, like restoring the morass as a wetland, and all the other environmental mistakes of the past. And you know, they've successfully done beach nourishment in Veira, Cuba. They've done it on Manley Beach, and it seems to be the preferred approach to restoring beaches in this part of the world. And that's basically what I would like to
Yes.
comment on.
Sure, no problem. Yes, you wanted to come back in here, Mary Veira.
Yes, that's where also one of the other solutions that could be used that we haven't had is a marine park. It was designated, the Negril Marine Park was designated in 1998, but it is not in effect. It's not been established. There are no rangers. People are out there fishing, overfishing, they're netting, they're pots, they're spearfishing in what is a designated marine park.
Okay, before you go on further, again, we have to make sure everybody's in the loop. When you speak of a marine park, what are you talking about?
It's a designated area that is protected. There's a no-wake zone, which means that the boats have to dock and moor outside. Then that would take care of the jet ski issue that we have here, that we're all waiting to hear what's happening with that. And it also means that people cannot come in this area and drop nets, put their fish pots, the anchors can't be dropped, there'll be no overfishing. The parrotfish are overfished here, and those fish are a big help in keeping our reefs clean. Because the morass is not functioning, our reefs are smothered in algae. The parrotfish clean and eat other fish too, but they are the ones, and when they eat and chew at the coral, they produce sand, and they do this all year round, and one parrotfish can produce up to 200 pounds of sand a year. 70% of the sand on all tropical beaches comes from parrotfish, and we're not protecting them. They're catching all the little ticky fish out here to make soup and to eat, and there's nobody stopping it. There's no wardens, there are no laws, there's no protection, and we need to have the marine park established. Nepal said that they were giving money to the agency responsible for establishing it. They said, I believe it was 700,000 in 2012, their report said. Well, where has that money been spent? We need a marine park, we need a fish sanctuary. The fish need somewhere that they can breed and grow and get bigger, and then the fishermen will have bigger fish to catch. They could forget about the little ticky fish.
Yeah. No, that's a huge issue. But I still can't understand, Ray Arthurs, why would the authorities not listen to the voice of reason in dealing with this matter? Because here in Negril, you've had issues before which an organization like the Chamber of Commerce has led the way in charting the appropriate course, and they have paid attention on those occasions. Why not now?
Well, apparently for some reason the Chamber is not as vocal as it used to be at one time. We are now at the stage where we're building back the Chamber. Hopefully it will reach where it was in the past. So I think that is one of the reasons. You have to have voices to speak for the community, and it was not there. Secondly, we see there's that sort of attitude where there seem to be other interests at work and not necessarily what is best for Negril. When these things will be pressed upon you to be done without consultation. It has been a consistent thing that we have seen over the years, over various administrations, not just the present one. You know, the people seem to be less important, who live here and work here. I thought, well, there's a motto that we put people first, one of the motto, but I'm not quite sure in what direction they put them first.
You know, no. The voice of the people, they say, is the voice of God, isn't it?
It's supposed to be.
And I always, whenever we get to this, we have this kind of discussion, I always like to refer to that scene which was played out on TV when that bridge they had a problem with that bridge over by Harbour View. And I think they were the government was putting in place a Bailey Bridge. And there was a man out there, I think Prime Minister Patterson was out there touring, And the man told Mr. Patterson, everybody else there, and all those who saw the TV story, that that bridge would have come crumbling down. And so said, so done. And this was a man who grew up in that area, right? So it makes sense to listen to the people who are on the ground, who are familiar with the environment. It's a no-brainer. We need to come back to this issue in just a moment. We're up on another break right here on both sides of the story. Power 106 FM, still streaming live on the Gleaners website, go-jamaica.com. We're hearing from the stakeholders here in Negril, the people who are on the ground, the people familiar with this 7-mile stretch of white sand beach, who are putting forward a proposal to do beach nourishment as opposed to putting in place breakwaters, which the authorities are proposing to do, because the breakwaters are going to bring with them a multiplicity of problems, a plethora of problems, which could result in Negril losing its status in more ways than one. We'll be back in just a moment. ¿Qué hora es en español? Son las 5:23. Quelle heure-t-il en français? Les 5h-23.现在几点了？What time is it in English? 23 minutes to 5 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? Are they where they're supposed to be? Doing what they're supposed to be doing? It's a good time to check up on the children. A good time to continue to check in with this 7-mile stretch of white sand beach in Negril. This is the focus of both sides of the story this afternoon. We're hearing from the stakeholders who feel that this issue is critical enough to have the airtime, to get the message out there, so that people not only here in Negril, but indeed all over the world, can be sensitized to what's happening here. We're getting some feedback as well on our text line 365-3346. This one says, hello Dervan, listening to this gentleman read Negril Beach, the erosion over the years. I remember in the 80s, my husband and I took some relatives who came from abroad to Negril. I can remember Negril being so beautiful then. When we went up to the road to Rick's Cafe, we could not find space to park. The place was busy to and fro, and the overall appearance was cleaned up all around, and we felt so proud of Negril overall. I have been down there in the late 90s, Dervan, and I was shocked to see how the place looks. The shacks that mushroomed on Manley Boulevard going in, looking so unsightly. In all, I do not feel enough pressure has been put in the places to make sure that Negril maintains its beauty and clean look. Dervan, I do not feel, could be wrong, big people in inverted commas doing enough to educate the people there to let them realize that it is important to keep Negril, the beach and appearance in tip-top shape. The Mars, that's the person who sent us that text message. Ray Arthurs, you want to respond to that?
Yes. I believe there's some truth in that. But we have some pressure building on us, which makes it very difficult to function. When we have squatting coming into Negril without measure, and no one wants to deal with it, that's one part of the problem. We, the Negril Chamber of Commerce, along with UDC, made provision for people selling on the street. If you notice, they don't have a lot of selling on the street in Negril, only when you go down to the square. First, we work with UDC to put a craft market at Rockland Point. Then we work with UDC to put one down by the community center there. And then we, by ourselves, the Negril Chamber of Commerce, work with USA and put up what we call Ferry Plaza to take people off the street and put them there. We've always been concerned about the appearance of the street in Negril, and we have shown that by the action that we're taking. But there are other factors that we cannot cope with, like squatters coming in, bringing by truckloads and nobody doing anything about it. Those are supposed to. It was recently brought to my attention when the hoteliers were buying water up here for thousands and thousands of dollars. There's a section in Negril that had free water and free light that they don't pay for. It was brought to my attention. The hotels were paying expensive money for water, but they don't pay. Now, when you have that sort of situation, what can you do? it's more nourishment there. And when we talk very little action, we have to see Negril as a prime resort for tourism. When it's tourism and look at the riverbank down there, what happens? The squatting air at night come out of the tourists. You see, when you have this sort of situation, the locals cannot do enough. We need help from the authorities to make it work.
Indeed. Mr. Mack sends us an email here. They want to blow his cover, so I'll call it Mr. Mack. He says the old man on the bridge advising the Honorable PJ was at the Yallas Bridge. Thank you for that. And Mr. Mack says, sounds like you need some oceanographic and sedimentation expertise. Did the consultation meet the Cabinet and Bureau of Standards benchmarks? Professor Mitchell and Robinson of UWI shouldn't be forgotten. Neither should climate change. Well, we thank you very much for your feedback, Mr. Mack, as usual. I was watching CNN over the weekend. What's his name now? He had, was it Fareed Zakaria, who had on his program the president of a place called Kiribati. And they're having serious issues with respect to climate change, and apparently they say in another 20 years or so, the place would just be covered with water because of where it is. So they have bought land in, what's the name of this place now? In one of those nearby, I think Fiji, bought land from Fiji, and they're also looking at buying some of these floating islands that are being built by Japan. So this issue of climate change is real. It is very real. And obviously we're seeing the effects here in Negril. And I want to come back to Ms. Veira here, because you seem to be quite schooled in environmental matters. You know these things very well. But what are some of the things though that people, we as citizens, residents of the area do that have negative effects on the area, because that must be considered a factor as well.
Okay, well, there are lots of small things that people can do to help their environment. They can, for one, stop littering, stop throwing plastic cups, plastic bags, all your garbage when you come to the beach. Yesterday I drove by the public beach. A number of people had little picnics out there and they leave all their garbage on the beach. Plastic and thing does not break down, it's not biodegradable. It then washes into the sea, it goes out there, it breaks down into little particles. The fish end up eating it, the turtles, it kills them, it poisons them. And then guess what? What are we doing? Eating that plastic, you know? I remember as a child growing up, if you bought sodas, you kept the bottles, they were glass, you took them back, they were recycled. I don't use scandal bags, I take my own shopping bags that I use over and over and over to the supermarket, to the market. I wash them and I use them over again. You know, we could make our bags biodegradable very easily. The one person who manufactures biodegradable plastic bags in Jamaica actually has to pay more for the ingredient to make that plastic biodegrade. Instead of getting a break from the government, I mean, I've written to more than one government about the plastic bag issue, the scandal bags. They all ignore it. I mean, I thought it was a great idea. Wouldn't a government in this country love to be called scandal-free? They could ban plastic bags. You know, in other countries in the world, if you don't carry your own bags, you have to pay for a bag in a store, and it is a biodegradable bag.
Yeah, no, some
Something
sound.
as simple as that.
Some sound points there. We need to take our final break here on both sides of the story. Power 106 FM. We're discussing the future of the 7-mile strip of white sand beach here in Negril. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Yahoo, Messenger, WhatsApp, BBM, YouTube, all the platforms you can think of. So keep those messages coming in. And of course, don't forget Instagram. I took a lovely picture standing on the white sand beach, and I know I look overdressed, those of you looking at the picture, but I don't know if we should blame Mrs. Roumel for that. You know, no, I don't think we will blame her for that at all. But we need to take that break now. Let's take the break and come back as we continue to discuss the future of the 7-mile stretch of white sand beach. The authorities want to put in breakwaters which the people of Negril contend, and there's evidence to show this as well, that it will impact, these breakwaters will impact negatively on the water and the beach in general. They're proposing beach nourishment, sand nourishment, as a starting point, and then part of a holistic solution. Very important point. We'll be back in just a moment. ¿Qué hora es en español? Son las 5 menos 9. ¿Quelle heure est-il en français? Il est 5h-9. Tiens ça, tiens-le. Cha, ciao, fen, ou, dien. What time is it in English? 9 minutes to 5 o'clock. Good afternoon to all working Jamaicans tuned in to both sides of the story. It's a good time for us to ask ourselves, how productive have we been today? How productive have we been today? Well, it's been a very productive discussion here at Charela Inn on Norman Manley Boulevard in Negril, looking at the future of the 7-mile strip of white sand beach. Our broadcast will end shortly, but the discussions will continue tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock at the Negril Community Center. Presentations will be made, there will be pictures, explanations, discussions, feedback. Please spread the word. If you're in and around Negril, elsewhere in Westmoreland, wherever you are listening to us now, if you can make it tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock at the Negril Community Center, please go out, let your voice be heard, and also go out and get a better understanding of what is being proposed, what is being suggested, and you'll be more informed and can therefore tug at the jacket of your MP or your councillor or anyone else who can make a decision in that regard. So we have with us, as we've been telling you, Ray Arthurs, one of the founders of the Negril Chamber of Commerce, Nehru Caolsingh, another of the founding members. He's from Crystal Waters, Ray Arthurs, Golden Sunset. Lee Issa is here, he's the chairman of Couples Resort. Mary Veira is quite a community activist and environmentalist in her own right. Sophie Grizzle Roumel representing Charela Inn. And I wanted to bring you in here, Sophie Grizzle Roumel, on the subject of the economic impact of what is being proposed by the authorities with respect to building these breakwaters.
Well, first of all, they intend to dump up right near to the town centre, and then they're going to bring 24 truckloads, which is about every 15 minutes, an enormous truck with boulders up to 13 tons will be coming into the town. So when I talk about this, people
and this is every day, daily?
This is daily for up to 9 months. Well, we all know NWA has never finished anything on time yet, so we're kind of looking at maybe a year. This will go right through our tourism season, and it will basically block off the West End. The most expensive hotels in Negril are actually on the West End. You have the Caves, you have Tensing Pen, Rock House, the Spa Retreat, which is a brand new hotel, foreign investment, and they spend a lot of money to build a beautiful property. And their guests are not going to want to go up in the hills of red ground, and it's going to create confusion. It's going to cause the town to flood out even more because that's where the water goes. We built the sewage system in the West End a few years ago, and it closed on the West End for about 5 years. The West End is only beginning to redevelop now. The yacht club is about to open pretty soon. A lot of little mom and pop shops are opening up. You have lots of little restaurants. You can buy anything in these little restaurants. You have nature restaurants. You have jerk, ital, all kinds of things. And these are the things that the tourists come to Negril for. They want to mix with the local people. They want to try our different kind of foods. They want to see our lifestyle. And the West End offers all of those things. So if we close off the West End for a year, it's going to take at least 2 years, conservatively, to bring back that business that the West End is used to. You have people who leave the West End in the morning to come to the beach. You have people from the beach who go there to eat, for the nightlife, for entertainment at night. So it's going to have an enormous impact. Negril employs over 10,000 workers who are in the employee system. That does not count the trickle-down effect with all the farmers from St. Elizabeth and all the people who work in Negril coming from all the areas around Negril. So it will have a tremendous effect on the economic value of Negril in the next 2 to 3 years. Can Jamaica afford to lose 28% of its tourism income? Even if we are conservative and we only lose 15 or 20%, that's an enormous amount of effect on the national budget.
Wow, that's frightening. And there are other things that need to be done in the meantime as well. You were saying during the break, Lee Issa, like restoring the morass. A lot of people don't understand the significance of that.
Well, you know, how it affects the fragile ecosystem. The value of the morass is that it filters all the pollutants, the insecticides, the fertilizers through the morass, so that when it gets out into the sea, it is almost 100% pure. Now the water runoff goes into the river with all the pollutants and nutrients, and it comes into the bay and ends up on the reef, and it suffocates the coral, and there's not enough fish out there to eat the algae, and the reef suffers, and that's what's been happening to our reef over the past decade. And the morass is a very important component of a healthy and viable ecosystem, and we have to preserve. You know, there was a $3 million allocation, and it was being managed by NET, where the government was going to provide $3 million US to do the restoration of the morass to a wetland. And I don't know what has happened to that project. I think it's just in abeyance.
Oh dear. Mary Veira, you wanted to pick up on that?
I was just saying that that money, NET was the ones that applied for that grant. It's from the Global Environmental Fund. And the minute they got a hold of it, NEPA stepped in because NGOs are not allowed to get money for grants, so it has to go through the government. And now it's in the hands of NEPA, and we can hear nothing about what they're actually doing with the $3 million. The first thing straight off the top was that they were taking their administrative fees, and other than that, we don't know what is happening with the rest of it and what is happening in the morass. We can have no meetings, no word, nothing from them.
It's a classic case of to be continued. Ray Arthurs, I give you a sentence. We need to wrap shortly.
One of the things that the Negril community found out early on when we come into tourism was the importance of the environment. And because of that, the Negril Chamber of Commerce has established a recycling center. Not to make any profit per se, but to take the bottles, the cardboards, and the plastics off the street. And at the moment, that is dormant. If that continues to be, I don't know what Negril is going to look like in the near future. And I believe that we must get some support of these things that good effort that we put in, but need help to bring it to fruition and to make it work properly. We need to deal with the environment, because it is such a vital, important part of the delicate area in which Negril has found itself. This has to be done.
That's right. And Nehru Caolsingh, you've been quite a while now.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that that we here in Negril will be given an opportunity to sit and have a meaningful discussion with the authorities, that we can arrive at a solution that will be to the benefit of all of us.
Well said. And that's it. If you want to hear more, turn out in all your numbers tomorrow afternoon, 3 o'clock at the Negril Community Center. It's a public meeting. Come and hear about the breakwaters, hear about the beach nourishment and all the other elements, all the other plans that are on the table, and learn of those that are more likely to have a positive effect on the 7 mile strip of white sand beach here in Negril, and the viability, the future of the tourism product here in Negril, as opposed to those that might have a deleterious effect. We'd like to thank our guests here this afternoon. Thank you once again, Sophie Grizzle Roumel, for having us at Charela Inn. Thank you, Ray Arthurs. We'll have to do another broadcast to talk about the tremendous contribution of the Chamber to the development of Negril. That is to come. Thank you, Nehru Caolsingh. Thank you, Lee Issa of Couples Resort, Nehru Caolsingh of Crystal Waters. Thank you, Mary Veira, a true community activist. Thanks to Ludlow Barker for doing technical duties on location. Kerry Ann Reid Henry obliging in the studios of Power 106. And thanks to you, our faithful listeners at home and abroad, for making it Both Sides of the Story. All things being well, Both Sides of the Story returns tomorrow afternoon, 2:30 to 5, live from the grand finals of a debating competition organized by the Ocho Rios Police, happening in the town of Ocho Rios tomorrow. That's where we'll be. Till then, this is Dervan Malcolm reminding all of us that every day is an opportunity to do better than yesterday. Take care.